Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is episode 161 of my brand new Comics Haul series, where I show you guys all the new issues that I pick up at my LCS every week. I've got 5 issues this week, so nothing too crazy, but from a wide variety of publishers. I've got stuff from Marvel, Boom Studios, and Image Comics. So let's just get right into it here with probably the biggest Marvel Comics release this week being Ultimate Spider-Man number 5. This is the biggest comic series on the stands, period, I think. Like every time a new issue of this comes out, it's always number one, it always sells out and everything. It's been great so far. I wasn't too sure when the first issue came out because it was maybe a little bit word heavy, a little bit too character focused, to the point where it was a little tough to get through that first issue. But it's really picked up since then. It takes place in an interesting format where each issue actually covers 1 month. So this series started in January, and it's just like following a linear timeline since then, and covering all the important events happening in Peter's life as time goes on. We've had Harry Osborn and bunch of other characters introduced. We had Gwen Stacy introduced for the first time in last issue, and just this new take on the Ultimate Universe on Spider-Man in general. And it's just cool to see him being more of a family man and like actually having a successful life in general, and having things figured out with his kids and all that. It looks like he's ramping towards having some kind of crossover with the Ultimates, and that series is supposed to start up, I think, next month. So I'm looking forward to that and what they're going to end up doing with that series. But yeah, I mean, the guest artist on this issue, I think Marco Cucchetto comes back in the next one after this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this ongoing. It goes without saying, this has been really great so far. Next up, we've got a big conclusion to the Krakoan era with Rise of the Powers of 10. This is number 5 of this series. RB Silva isn't even doing art on here. I don't think they announced this beforehand, but this artist Luciano Vecchio is doing the entire final issue, not even fill-ins or anything, but just the entire final issue. I'm not sure what happened there, but this series has not been great in my opinion. Just as someone that hasn't followed all of the Kieran Gillen Krakoan Age stuff, it really is more of a conclusion to that than it is the Krakoan Age in general. With like these enigmas that are able to destroy the universe that are like created by AI intelligence and like Mr. Sinister. There's all these other factors that go into it. It's honestly very, very confusing, to the point where it's not very fun to read when they have like these text pages trying to explain all the different timelines of like Moira X's life that like tie into the enigma and all this confusing stuff. I don't know if anyone who reads X-Men comics, even if you have been reading all the Kieran Gillen stuff, like fully understands what he's even trying to put across with this series, but it's been like decent. I guess it's still readable because the artwork has been really good, and there are some larger concepts that are pretty entertaining in terms of just like a large scope for an X-Men event like this has been. But really, like the actual action of the main story with Orcus, just the X-Men fighting Orcus and working their way back up, that ended last issue. With Fall of the House of X, number 5, right? So at this point, I don't really know what we're even working towards, but we have that issue, and then we have X-Men 35 next month, and then we're going into the new X-Men era. The last issue I picked up from Marvel Comics this week was Avengers Twilight, number 6. This is the best deal you're going to get in a comic from anything at Marvel. You still get the $5 for 30 pages like you're supposed to, and they also give you like the semi-cardstock cover that they put for their premium issues. This looks like a pretty crazy cover by Alex Ross here. I'm not too sure about what it's reflecting on the inside because I'm pretty behind on this series. I think I've only read the first 3 issues, I want to say, so I do have a lot to catch up on here, but this is the conclusion. I know this took a while to come out. I feel like the last issue was a good month or two ago at this point, but it's been decent from what I have read. I think maybe it picks up a little bit because I've heard better things about some of the later issues. I think my biggest turnoff is maybe just Daniel Acuna's artwork, to be honest. There's some cool stuff that he does with it, and I know he's a really legendary artist, so it's hard for me to say that, but it's just so cluttered, and there's so many jumbled colors and not very much line work that I find it kind of hard to look at. Like, look at this spread. You can't really discern, like, a single figure at all without, like, looking deeper into the artwork. So it's honestly just kind of hard to read in that regard, but other than that, it's an interesting story about these old versions of the original Avengers living in kind of a dystopian world where like Tony Stark's son owns like the corporations that run the world and this fake team of Avengers that just kind of like a corporate sellout type thing. Chip Zdarsky is good with Elseworld stuff. This hasn't been quite as good as like Spider-Man Life Story or anything like that he's done in alternate universes before, but it's still worth checking out. Nothing too crazy though. That's Avengers Twilight, the final issue of that series. Next up from Boom Studios, we got Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. This is number 15 of this one. This is the very last issue of this series. I've been waiting a long time for this big conclusion. Jason Aaron has not made this predictable in any way. I really don't know what's going to end up happening by the end of this. But this is just a love story at the end of the world is the basic synopsis. Each story arc was 5 issues, and each arc had a new artist. Since then, they've kind of been interweaving each art style and having the older artist come back to tell more of an overarching story across these 3 time periods of the 2 main characters' lives. So they're all working in tandem here. It looks like all 3 artists are involved now, including Nick Dragotta, who does most of the actual present day sequences in this future where the characters are older, and we actually get to see what the end of their story ends up being. The last issue was pretty good. We got them kind of making up for some of the damage that was done in the second story arc and figuring out what those mists were that were controlling them. But it's very climactic. There's a lot going on, and you definitely have to read the whole thing. I would not jump into this with the third story arc or whatever. It seems like Jason Aaron always intended it to be read completely, or at least in order, because it's a very self-contained story within the 15 issues. It's clear that it wasn't ever supposed to be an ongoing thing. And yeah, I mean, huge recommendation from me. This was I think I put it at number 2 last year for my top 10 comics of the year. I'll probably put it up there again, even though a few issues have only come out this year. But yeah, looking forward to reading this one and seeing how it ends. That's a huge recommendation from me. The last issue I picked up this new comic book day, though, was Knights, number 7. This one has also been pretty good. I'm a little bit behind on this one, too, to be honest. I've got some catching up to do. But I think I might have read up to number 5 for this one. This has been great. It's a little bit unhinged, I'd say. There's not very much cohesion in terms of issue-to-issue overarching story. It's kind of just these little one-off standalone stories with some character progression in between, which I do appreciate sometimes, but it's kind of an anthology series in that regard, just with the same characters in every issue. It's this fantastical world set in, I think, Miami, somewhere in Florida, where there's these monsters, there's these ghosts of people who weren't at peace with themselves when they died, and they have to find a way to become at peace with themselves, or else they go to hell or something like that. All these different characters, there's vampires involved, and it's just this really cool vision of a world in Miami that I've been really enjoying. It's well written. I liked all the characters. I like all the characterization and everything. Good main cast. There's also these original soundtracks, or at least I think they put together playlists for every issue, which I haven't been listening to. I find that a little bit distracting when I'm reading, but if you're into that kind of thing, they're taking it a step further with this series and including some kind of auditory element. And yeah, kind of a sleeper, I feel like. Not many people are talking about this one. I tried it because my LCS was giving out free copies of the first issue, and then I got hooked and just kept buying it from there. But yeah, pick up the first trade paperback if it's out yet. I think this one has been really good so far, and hopefully you guys would like it also. But those are the 5 issues I picked up this week for New Comic Book Day. Not too many, but that'll give me a good chance to catch up on some of my back reading that I've got to get caught up on still. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to this week down in the comment section below. Which is your favorite issue you picked up this week? And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.